I welded my brackets in here, heim joints. Everything looks pretty good. Now just a matter of a few little adjustments, and I clean this whole area up, paint it. Next thing I did was work on the geometry here. It wouldn't quite go lock to lock because of this rack and pinion, or I would go lock to lock on the steering but not on the wheel. So what I'd done is just cut a 3/4 of an inch off of, I cut it 2 and moved it in 3/4 of an inch, and that gives me a pretty good steering angle. I got 2 3/4 of a turn here in the wheel, but when it's locked now, I don't know what that is. Yeah, maybe 30 degrees, but I think that's plenty enough to park it, and it's the same on both sides. It's turning pretty good now. See, I've got it locked there, and I've still got fairly straight tie rod ends. Whenever this one's all the way to the lock, it's straight, and the same with that one. To the outside, it's pulled in, and both wheels are against the wheel stop. So this is pretty much where these tie rods and everything needs to go. Get as best steering as I can on it, and so with the stops, it's hitting the stops now and not part of the suspension, and everything looks hunky-dory. So now I'll take these brackets off, weld them up, grind them down, and I'll paint all this, put it back together, and I'll be done with what I'm doing. I think I'll paint my axles black to match the axle, or the spindles black to match the axle, and I think I'm going to paint these tie rods ends here, or the brackets. I think I'll paint them to match the motor along with the brake caliper. That silver paint didn't work out. Looks like it's rusting. I don't want any rust on this. I got this all apart. Now it's time to start planning my brakes. If I put my brake on here, it simply won't go far enough. Let's see if I can set this up here. But it's going to point down, and there's just no way that it's going to be far enough to reach the hose. But if I modify that brake just a little bit, cut that edge off, and then I'll have enough room here for my hose going up to make me a bracket on the frame down here on the bottom. So that's what I'll have to do since I got this brake off, is cut this lip off here, and I'll have to put my hose in upside down, and then I've got to grind my bracket here, weld it up and grind it so it'll make sure that I clear my brake. So now I know what I'm going to do with my hoses and stuff, just to weld it up and grind it down. Yeah, I got the brakes apart, cleaned up pretty good. I just shot them with a coat of the final color here. It turned out pretty good. Plum crazy is the color, and I'm not really trying to go for anything great. It's kind of hard to see here, but it's a nice color. The calipers will look good. They're just about dust free now. They'll be hard tomorrow. So, purple car. And I shot a little bit of the fender here. Yeah, obviously ran it real good. And it's not clean or anything. I just squirted it on there because I had some left just to see what it's going to kind of look like. Yeah, it'll be fine. Blue car, kind of purpley, and I think it ought to look real good next to this orange motor here. Looks green under this blue tarp, but I'll squirt a little on that orange thing there. That'll show up. Just doing this, I learned quite a bit about the paint. It runs real easy, so it looks like I'm going to have to squirt a real light coat like it is in here, and let it set quite a while, and then come back with another coat. But I think they'll give me orange and Mopar plum crazy. We'll see what happens. Wheels turned out pretty good. There's a disc. Cleaned them up a bit. Start to assemble my parts now to make sure I get them all right. This one here had a lot of runs on it, so I just wiped it all off. I'll spray it again, sand it, I'll let it dry a bit, and just spray that one piece. But it turned out pretty good all in all. I'll be able to put it all together and see what my disc and stuff look like, grind my steering arms, finish up the fitting on them, make sure they fit, polish them, and then I can paint them. I'll let it dry and I go on to another project. Well, I got them all ground up good, polished, and this time I took a little more time with my mixture. Looks like I got a little bit of run right there. Jesus. And dirt now. Yeah, I just wiped that off with lacquer thinner and do it again. But I put a very light coat on it, and it looks pretty good. 30 pounds, this looks like what this likes to paint at. Alright, I cleaned those up. Sprayed one more coat on them. They look good. And I went through my wheels here, and one of them had runs in it. Cleaned it up. This was a good one. There's the second coat on that. And this is one that was real bad, but it's starting to look real glossy. Brakes look good on it. Everything will fit and not mess my paint up now. And looks like yeah, I got a little bit of a run in that one. I'll pull it to the top. And yeah, it's all under the brake anyway, so it looks like I got, even being careful, put a little too much on that one. I knew that. We just have to go real slow and put just a very tiny light coat on these things, and a little more air pressure and less paint. I'll get the technique down, so when I go to working on it, I'll have something a little better.